3D World was a lot of fun, but this is the Mario game that the Wii U needed. After reaching the apex of platforming with the Mario Galaxy series, Nintendo apparently decided that the only thing better than perfect platforming was an infinite amount of perfect platforming. Level creation tools have never been this lovingly crafted or this much fun to use, and they've never been attached to gameplay systems as impeccable as the ones used for games like Super Mario World and Super Mario Bros. 3. And, new Super Mario Brothers U. I had more fun making terrible, amateurish levels in this game and discovering what other people had come up with than I did playing through some of the best of what professional game developers had to offer. So I'm one of those madmen who thought that last year's Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was the pinnacle of the series. The way they switched up the basic gameplay by increasing your mobility and verticality to extreme levels made for an incredibly fun online shooter. Black Ops 3 isn't quite that good, but it's still a ton of fun in the way that the best Call of Duty games are a ton of fun. Wall running is a great addition to the game, and the specialist system makes for some incredible stupid dialogue if nothing else. The moment that rolling through a hardpoint zone and decimating an entire enemy team becomes less than fun, my soul is going to break, but that hasn't happened yet.
Our reputation is our best deterrent.
The campaign, meanwhile, is a big step up from Advanced Warfare's. Sure, we traded in Kevin Spacey for Christopher Maloney, but everything else about the experience is much more enjoyable. The plot is more focused and interesting than the usual worldwide conflict thing the series goes for, and there's some great little twists on the usual Call of Duty bombast.
At 7:31 a.m., a terrorist group detonated an explosive device on board this train. The incident sent back our robotics program several years. You're here to stop it.
It also features one of my favorite characters of the year, Hendrix. The man seems like an action movie archetype somehow transplanted into a cyberpunk espionage story, and his every line reading is amazing.
The camera feeds show the Immortals are closing in fast, burning and destroying everything in their way.
Yeah. No shit. Hear that?
And that's the other thing I love about this game. This is the most anime that Call of Duty has ever been. You run around and blow people up with your mind, and you get your limbs torn off by murder bots. Man, how is this only number 9? Her story's merits have been a bit overshadowed by its format. The entire game consists of searching through police interview footage using a searchable database of the transcriptions of those interviews. You spend the entire game watching FMV footage. There's no ending, no arc. It's entirely up to you to figure out what you want from this non-linear narrative, and you can stop playing at any time if you feel like you're happy with the facts of the case.
What's that got to do with Simon's murder?
But the way that process unfolds and the way the facts intertwine and contradict seems to reveal that this game's content and its format are two halves of the same coin. Both sides seem like they exist in service of the other.
Well, I don't know. I probably had to pop out and get something, that's why I was speeding. And that wouldn't have been noted on my timesheet. But I really can't remember back to February.
I gave this game a perfect score when I reviewed it, and I stand by that score. This is a game that could not be improved. It takes a small idea and explores it thoroughly. And, in that process, it stumbles upon some amazing moments.
Should be right up your street.
Sisters came walking by the sea. Oh, the wind and the rain. The eldest one pushed the other one in. Oh, the dreadful wind and rain.
Let's take a look at the value proposition of Rocket League. You've got one game mode, one map, no stat progression, no real single-player story, But it doesn't matter because, oh my god, Rocket League is next level-ish. It's just soccer with cars, but the cars can fly around and blow up other cars by running into them really fast, and every time you score, the ball explodes and sends everybody flying, and the quick chat is just constant cursing, and you can unlock all these stupid cosmetic items for your car. $20 is probably too much, but I don't care, I'd pay it again. Man, what a game. You got espionage, intrigue, politics, camaraderie, inclement weather, betting, and hey, it's got a pretty good RPG included with it. I've never been a huge fan of the Telltale format of adventure games. It always seemed like their biggest strength, player choice, was kind of a fraud in that in the end it didn't really matter what you did. Life is Strange, an attempt at that format by a different developer, doesn't really solve that problem. But the world and characters it presents are so much more interesting to me than anything that's been in a Telltale game. You can reduce this game down to time-traveling hipsters and not be too far off the mark, but it becomes so much more than that by the time things start going truly sideways for young Max. I know there was a lot of disappointment with how this game wrapped up, but the last 2 episodes contain some of the most memorable moments of the year for me. There are moods and ideas that this game touches on that have rarely, if ever, been touched on in this way before in video games. I'd rewind time to play this game again, even if it meant Chloe had to get shot in the stomach for the 12th time. Competitive shooters have been stagnating since forever. The last truly innovative title I can think of is the first Modern Warfare, which came out in 2007. The industry has been in desperate need of a shakeup for almost a decade now. Enter Nintendo? But who else could have made a shooter this unique, this vibrant, this confident? In the span of exactly 1 game, Nintendo created a world and a cast of characters that I already feel like they're strong enough to maintain for years. There's so much personality and color in every corner of this game, and the actual gameplay is a blast too. There's so many weapons and abilities to choose from, on top of all the great cosmetic options available to you, and they all work so well in the context of painting levels your team's color. I had a huge grin on my face the first time I played this game, and I get close to that level every time I play. Special note should be made of this game's soundtrack, which is like the beautiful child the Jet Set Radio Future soundtrack always wishes it had, but with more squid burbles. In terms of pure gameplay, I think Metal Gear Solid 5 is unrivaled this year. This game controls like a dream. It runs smooth. It gives you so many options that it can be overwhelming figuring out how to take out a small camp of 3 soldiers, let alone an entire base. It also has plenty of that Kojima charm. Flame whales, eye patch wolves, horse poop, cardboard box sledding, punching a child version of Liquid. All this and more is in store for the intrepid player. Add in one of the most audacious plot twists I can think of, and you have all the makings of a game of the year. The only thing that held back for me was the bizarre pacing. The game ends halfway through, but then it kind of keeps going, but at that point you're just replaying slightly different versions of levels you've already played. It's such a bizarre structure. Usually I'm okay with Kojima being bizarre, but this feels more like outside meddling than it feels like Kojima's grand design. Also, the parasites thing is pretty dumb.
One more shot at this.
But did I mention eye patch wolf?
Jesus.
Bloodborne takes one of my favorite games and somehow improves on it in basically every aspect. This is Dark Souls, Everything is Crazy Edition. Like in Dark Souls, the game starts you off with absolutely no idea what's going on. It basically shoves you into the worst places imaginable to see how you manage. You start out in a fairly normal-looking Victorian world, but by the end of the game you're traversing dimensions and fighting giant unknowable monstrosities that make your character go insane just by looking at them. I'm not making that up, that is a system in the game. The changes they made to the combat are also kind of amazing. They've taken out a lot of the crutches that mediocre players like me used in Dark Souls and replaced them with systems that encourage you to go on the offense. You can regain lost health by attacking quickly, and shields have been replaced with guns. Yo, guess what? Guns are better than shields. What I love most about Bloodborne, though, is the world. Take one of my favorite areas, Hemwick Charnel Lane. It's a straight-up Sleepy Hollow nonsense, culminating in this extremely tense walk through an old storehouse. When you make it through, you see this old castle off in the distance. And then you get to the castle and it's this huge, imposing puzzle full of secrets and new monsters. You can start to unravel the story of the family that lived here. Even join the Queen's Covenant if you're a bad enough dude. This is all optional. This whole castle is just this crazy side adventure you can go on. Exploring this castle for the first time, going in completely blind, was maybe the most fun I've had this year. And that's to say nothing of the bosses, which are spectacular, the characters, who are fascinating, or the weapons, which are so much fun to use. I'll just say this, Crow's set of armor is my favorite set of armor in any video game. Man, if that's not number one, I don't know what. They don't make a lot of games like this because I don't think it's possible to make a lot of games like this. There's too much singularity of focus, too much work put in. Undertale is a game made by someone who loves video games that is designed to be loved by people who love video games. And I do love video games. And I do love Undertale. And that's all well and good, but Undertale isn't just my game of the year because it's a love letter to video games. It's my game of the year because it truly innovates a pretty rote genre. The combat system is this amazing amalgam of bullet hell shooters and moral choices and rhythm games, and no two enemies ever fight you the same way. You have the option in this game to spare every single monster you encounter, and finding out the ways to do so is a blast every time. Here's the other innovation. Undertale is funny. A lot of video games are funny, but Undertale is straight up funny. Like, it made me laugh multiple times. More than multiple times. Or say, oh Christ. I said oh Christ a lot during this game. I don't want to spoil a bunch of this game's gags, but here's a couple that made me laugh. Just every single aspect of this game is a complete success. The characters are all well written and interesting, the soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. The graphics are extremely nostalgic for me, but they're well drawn and stylized in their own right. And the plot. Oh my goodness, the plot. There are things that happen in the last half hour of this game which put the timey-wimey nonsense in Life is Strange to shame. Actually, the last half hour of this game is so good, so well done, that I feel like it alone cements this game as my game of the year. If there's one experience I think everyone should have this year, it's the last section of this game. If there's one more experience I think everyone should have this year, it's the rest of the game.